Blog Talk Radio.
Hello and welcome to episode number 75 of Songs of Selah here on the 17 Numa Radio channel. Thank you for tuning in tonight as time keeps ticking away in one sense and hurtling forward in another, more important sense. Look at the calendar and all of a sudden September has already finished cycling through since the last time we were together. And that means season 2 of this show is now a full month old, as October is in full swing, starting to cut its teeth on the sweet, sunshine-infused sugar of oranges, mandarins, and grapes, chewing on the comb of raw honey just for good measure, and a little extra jolt of electricity. And all these bees of the earth are blessed with the ability to save the flowers in your heart, but oh, you know, they still sting sometimes. I'm your host, Scott Thomas Outler, and this is Monday, October 14th, 2019. We'll be live here for the next hour, and phone lines are open at 646-668-8757 if you'd like to call in with any questions or comments for tonight's guest, Jacob F Bustos. He'll be joining the program in the next segment to talk about his book, When Food is Your Frenemy, from Morgan James Publishing, and to tell us about his health journey, his work as a chef, and his 25 years of experience being in the restaurant business. Looking forward to that conversation coming up shortly. I would like to remind everyone that all past episodes of Songs of Selah can be listened to and downloaded from the archive here on the channel or at 17numa.com. Thank you to guests Mila Blust, Gloria Mindock, Douglas Cole, and Rhonda Huff for appearing on recent episodes of the show. Please check out all their interviews when you have some extra time, and please do subscribe to 17 Numa Radio for free by clicking the follow button that can be found on the page where this episode is streaming right now. It only takes a minute to do. Your support is greatly appreciated, and thank you especially to everyone who shares episode links and helps to spread the word about this show. If life itself is art, then every breath is a poem, and the exhale is a snapshot capturing each new moment as it manifests into form. And if you have a palette in your heart designed to paint, then you better start slinging color on the canvas while the urge remains strong. And if the process of life seemingly has a plan all its own, then you best learn to dance so you can remain steady on your feet when the path takes sudden, sometimes unexpected turns. For what you knew in one age will return in time when trekking around another bend up ahead, but what you were before is no longer relevant today. Wisdom and truth are, indeed, eternal and constant, but the mind and body must continually evolve and be renewed at every new stage of development. System upgrades take place in the realm of consciousness, and there is nothing artificial about that sort of organic intelligence. Well, what I mean to say with all of that, I suppose, is that autumn has arrived. No real segue there, but that's cool. This is truly a season for taking stock of life and for being thankful, grateful, and appreciative for what is most important. On a personal note, I'm thankful for my family, my friends, my health, my work, this podcast, and all the great moments that lie ahead for the rest of 2019. And also, on the theme of thankfulness, I'd like to take a moment and say thank you to Raja Williams at CTU Publishing. She published my third book, Happy Hour Hallelujah, back in 2016, and the contract on that title has now expired after 3 years, so it will be going out of print temporarily and will no longer be carried by CTU. But I've been in contact with another publisher recently, a good friend of mine in fact, that has offered to release a new printing of the book. So that's certainly a possibility I'm considering down the line a bit when there's more time to focus toward the project. But it was a great relationship with CTU during the past 3 years, and I wish Raja all the best in her future endeavors. I thought this would be an appropriate time to read an excerpt from the book. This piece is one of my favorites from the collection, and it is titled Revelations in the Marrow. The vastness of your scope, as I stare into the sky, reveals itself here and there, with glimpses into the absolute glimmer. Yet the mystery remains ineffable in a context beyond that which my primitive consciousness can grasp. And I am beginning to understand that the seduction of your existential aloofness is part and parcel to the inherent romance in this experience of life. I cannot come to know you fully in the spaces of my mind, but I can feel you in my guts, in my heart, in my veins, through my blood, in my bones, down to the marrow. These two open eyes cannot glean your greatness, but when they are closed, I can see dimensions beyond this physical plane of existence, and I can sense the raw power which pulses from your source as it radiates outward to be divined by those who truly seek. The names which you have been called by throughout the ages mean nothing to me at this point. Simple words babbled from broken tongues cannot capture the purity of your meaning. It is your essence to which I am addicted, and I will never cease reaching toward your unconditional love until every urgent craving in my soul has been satiated by your presence. So that was Revelations in the Marrow. Rest in peace to Happy Hour Hallelujah, for now at least. Who knows what the future holds in that regard? Whatever the case, I'm sure it'll be fun. But all my other books, including this year's release of Sand and Sugar, are available on Amazon and through their respective publishers. More information and links to those books can also be found at 17numa.com. Alright, that just about wraps things up here at the top of the show. Let's go to a music break now, and then on the other side of that, we'll be back with tonight's guest, Jacob F. Bustos. Stay tuned. back to Songs of Selah here on 17 Numa Radio. That was a track called Unfinished Dreams off an album by Vlada Mars, who's a past guest here on the program. And anyone who'd like to appear as a future guest can get in contact with me via email at 17numa@gmail.com or connect with me and reach out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And I'd be more than happy to take a look at your work and get you set up for an episode later this year or early in 2020. Tonight's guest, Jacob F. Bustos, is a chef, cooking coach, and food enthusiast who has been in the food business for 24 years. He beat his battle with morbid obesity after undergoing a life-saving bariatric procedure that began his 160-pound weight loss journey, and has set out to make a positive impact on others by emphasizing how important healthy food choices are. Jacob began his career in the fast food business and earned various awards for great customer service, even receiving congressional recognition for his charitable work. In 2002, he left the fast food business and currently runs a number of fast casual cafes in Southern California. Jacob resides in Valencia, California, just north of Los Angeles. Thanks so much for joining the program tonight, Jacob. How are you doing?
Thank you, Scott. My goodness, I feel so zen and so relaxed after hearing all about the honey and about the fruits and then that music. I just feel very calm right now.
Oh, very good. I'd like to put guests in a relaxed mode before we kick things off here.
Exactly.
So how are things over there on the West Coast?
You know, the weather, we can't complain. The weather is always perfect in Southern California, and so I have very little to complain about. We did have fires nearby, but we're good.
That's good to hear. Yeah, all those fires y'all have had over there in California the last few years has been troublesome. I've got some family over there as well. Had to deal with those local raging fires.
That's right. Every single year we get them.
So we've got a lot to talk about today. You've obviously been very successful in the business world and with your work as a chef, and you also wrote this new book. I don't know exactly when you wrote it. We can talk about that, but it was released here recently, and so we can get into that some more. But maybe just to start off,
sure,
if you'd like to give any background information on what led you to write that book and why you wanted to get your personal story out there into the world to help other people.
Sure, that's actually a great question, and it's one that over the last few years I've really thought about that deeply and really tried to understand what brought me to the point that I decided to write a book. And I had no desire to write a book. Life was kind of just happening. I was in my early 30s, weighing pretty heavy, weighing about 250, 260 pounds. It just didn't get any better. The weight kind of progressed, and so through various appointments and through various visits with my doctor, I did have gastric bypass surgery back in I want to say that was about 7 years ago. And so life was great. And Scott, I had no plan on writing a book. The weight was coming off quick. I didn't think my life could get any better. And so all things were great until about 3 years ago when, the vanity in all of us, there's still a little piece of us that you don't like this or you don't like that, or we all have some sort of body image issue, and I struggle with that. And so I had a lot of excess skin that was kind of hanging over my belly, and I decided to go have that removed. And in the process of having my skin removal surgery, I didn't do very well. And in fact, I should have been out by, I think, noon that day, and I think I was still in the hospital by 4 or 5 p.m. And so I was sent home. To make a long story short, I was sent home, and by that evening I was back in the emergency room because I was losing a lot of blood. And during that portion of my life, there's a lot that happened in that little time frame there, but it's hard for me to talk about this portion just because I don't really know where people's faith lies, but I had a moment where, my brother was praying for me in the emergency room. I had doctors and nurses working all around me, and I had an out-of-body experience where I could see what was happening to me on the table. And before you know it, I was with my Maker, and I was in the presence of the Lord and having some pretty deep deep moments there. And so I have never released in a book or throughout the speaking engagements that I do, I've never released really what those moments were and exactly what I spoke to God about. But I did at the end of that have the opportunity to either stay or come back, and I did choose to come back. And in that time, I didn't really know what my purpose was in life, and God, showed me exactly what my purpose was, to feed people. So kind of looking back to all that, Scott, and looking back, gosh, I gained weight. I was very heavy. I was morbidly obese. I had, cholesterol issues. I had diabetes. And through all of that, the message that I got at the end of this journey was to go and feed people. And so I had never even thought about writing a book. And at that point, that's kind of where the inception of the book came along. And then I just started writing. And over the course of a couple of years, I just, I had enough content to really put down some good information of what happened to me. It talks about what other people can expect if they're thinking about bariatric surgery. So there's a lot in it, not just my story, but there's a cookbook in there as well. There's recipes. So hopefully that wasn't the long-winded version that you were looking for, or maybe it was. But that's kind of where I'm at today with my book, When Food Is Your Frenemy.
No, that's absolutely an amazing story. That epiphany that you had during that experience, it goes to show people that even during the darkest moments of life, or what could be, in your case, almost death at that point, inspiration is found, or an epiphany is found, the Word of God in your case, giving you your mission in life, and coming back and now working to fulfill that. That's a beautiful message, even though it was dire circumstances, it sounds like at the time, but to bring something positive out of that experience. Where did you go from that point after that surgery that you had and healing up from that? What type of changes did you start to make in, I guess, your nutrition and diet and lifestyle and that sort of thing to coincide with the surgeries to get your path toward health heading in the right direction?
That's another great question. And before I went to gastric bypass, I had to go through a few classes. I was so lucky that I was able to get amazing care at Kaiser Permanente, and I never once had any issues with the doctors there. They were phenomenal. And so, really, I learned how to change my habits before even going through the surgery. So I went into this knowing that I would not be able to eat certain foods like rice. Rice is it's a tough food to digest for me. I went into this knowing that I would never be able to drink soda again because it's not good for you. And so some of the changes really happened before I went through the surgery. And then post the surgery, part of it is that you can't eat a whole lot, because if you try to eat a lot, you're just not going to feel very good. You're going to dump. You're going to get sick. And so really for me, the changes kind of took place before, and getting myself prepared to for this change. My whole body was going to change. The way I thought about food was going to change. The way I ate was going to change. I come from a family in northern New Mexico where we are very hospitable people, and we want to feed you, and we want to give you something to drink. And I realized that I'm still going to be a hospitable person because that's who I am. But the way I'm going to do that is going to have to change. I'm not going to be able to put out this amazing spread anymore for me if it's just me and a few other people. I'm going to have to be careful with that. Or when I go to a party or when I go to a gathering, it's going to be harder for me to go to a table and see a lot of food and know that I can only eat a little bit of it. So the transformation really took place before, and it was more of a mental change. And then post-surgery, it really took place, because physically you just can't eat a lot of food.
That is a big mental hurdle, I would think, to have to get over, changing that whole aspect of your lifestyle. Are there any sort of programs that you went through or mental changes that you made consciously, or keys and tips that you can pass on that maybe help that transition?
Oh, yes, I can give a lot of tips. The first one is, and again, I'll give kudos to Kaiser Permanente because they really were the best to me throughout that whole process. But I had to go through a mental evaluation, and that's something that they highly encourage anybody who wants to go through any sort of, whether it be gastric bypass or a sleeve surgery, or if it's the I think there's there's a third type of surgery, and it's just not coming to my head right now. But the lap band, they really encourage everybody to go through a mental evaluation before that, just to be sure that you are mentally capable of whatever changes are going to be happening. So some of the tips that I would give people is, number one, if you are not ready to go through a change and you're not ready to change the way your lifestyle is, then don't waste your time getting a surgery. It's not foolproof. There's many people that have gained their weight back after bariatric surgery. So mentally, be prepared, because it will be a huge change. If you like to drink soda, if you like to drink liquor, that's there's changes that just have to happen. So mentally, going into this knowing that you will have to make some changes is probably one of the biggest things that I would tell anybody considering this type of surgery. The second thing I would say is, there's things that you just shouldn't have. Lots of sugar, lots of white rice, or lots of foods with white flour. And my second tip would always be, start trying to wean yourself off of those before you even thought about doing some sort of a bariatric procedure.
Great advice, absolutely. And one of the aspects that you talk about in your book as well is the portion your plate, which is also the name of your website. Can you talk a little bit about the foundation and philosophy behind that concept?
Oh, yes. I love talking about that, because I think, I'm going to say a couple things really quick, Scott, and that's, if you go into any restaurant in America, and I'm not knocking any restaurants, but our portions have gotten just way out of control. In fact, in the United States, any person who visits a buffet typically consumes about 7,000 calories during a sitting at a buffet. And so I really struggled with that. I struggled with thinking, gosh, how am I going to change my lifestyle to where I don't need to go sit down and eat 7,000 calories in one sitting. And a really good friend of mine has a company called Livliga, which they sell dinnerware, they sell flatware, they sell drink cups that are much smaller. And so my concept really of portion your plate came out because I have to eat smaller portions. And when I started to look at what people ate back in the 50s and 60s, the portions were small and people lived just fine. If you go back and look at a soda can back in the 40s, they were 6-ounce soda cans. That was normal. If you look at what size a bagel was served back in the 50s, it was a very small bagel, nothing like the size that we have today. And people lived fine, and they lived longer, and they lived happier. And so when I really came out with Portion Your Plate, the concept really was to help people understand eating smaller portions is not a bad thing. It's not going to hurt you. But it also means portion out your plate, because don't limit yourself to what you're going to eat. If you like to eat something, food is one of those things that God gave us. It's an amazing gift. We should enjoy food, but just enjoy that in smaller portions. Thus came Portion Your Plate.
Absolutely. We live in the country of America where everything is supersized and
That's
now
right.
laced with chemicals and all of those artificial preservatives and everything. And so even when you are eating a lot, you don't feel hungry because you're maybe not getting the nutrition you need. And so
That's right.
making those healthy food choices and the natural foods and eating them in a reasonable portion, like you were saying, back in the day, they knew what was going on, and you eat and you feel full, and you can get on with your day.
I put in my book. There's a portion, a chapter in it that talks about my great grandmother, because I was lucky enough to be born and to live in a time where I knew my great grandmother. And Scott, she lived to be 92 years old and had no health issues. And I'll tell you, I still remember watching my grandparents eat and my great grandmother eat, and they didn't eat a lot of food, and they were very active. And they were fine with what they ate. They didn't eat to gorge. They ate just enough to be sustained. And I think in our culture right now, that's missing. We don't eat to just be sustained and get from breakfast to lunch with energy. we eat because, gosh, it's really good, and we're just going to keep going because the portion sizes are enormous. And you go to you go to a restaurant today, and I mean, a family of 4 can eat with one portion that's being served in some places. So the portioning is just something that I cannot talk enough about. That in this country, we better realize that we have a big problem. There's 20 million kids who are living with diabetes today, and that's only because they've been to a doctor that has told them they've got diabetes. There are way more kids than that. They've not been formally diagnosed because they haven't seen a doctor. So pretty startling when you think about it. And if we can just do one thing, which is portion out our plates better, to me, I think if I can help one kid, that's like it's a big deal for me, and it's worth me just writing a book to put a message out.
That is a very sad statistic you just mentioned there. And food is such a over-encompassing part of our life. It's everywhere. It's part of every day, of course. And things are so stressful in the world right now in a lot of areas, too, that people use food almost as a drug in some sense to numb things out sometimes. And so there's a lot that goes into the idea of controlling our diets and trying to maintain that healthy lifestyle. And it sounds like you grew up in a family where food was always very important. Has that been, and are obviously a chef now in the restaurant business, has that been something that you've always known that you wanted to be involved with from a young age?
You know, it is. I mean, I can never remember a day that went by in my household, growing up where my parents, my siblings, and we all sat at the dinner table and we ate dinner as a family. It blows my mind that today people don't sit together and have a meal. But I'll go even a little bit deeper, Scott, if I can. And again, I am always sensitive to people that may not share the same faith as I do. But, Christ, and I am a Christian, and I'm happy to say that, but Jesus Christ could have chosen anything in this world. The sun is amazing, the ocean is amazing, and it's great and it's grand. And he could have chosen anything to be remembered by that was great and grand, but he chose a piece of bread to be remembered by. And so food, besides being significant in my family, it's significant in my faith. And so, food has just been a big part of everybody's life. I mean, you go to the South, and food is a big deal in the South. You go up into the Midwest, and food is a big deal to them. It's just different types of food. And so food for me has always been, and that's partly where the title of my book, When Food is Your Frenemy, came from. Food in my life has been my best friend at so many times in my life, especially the tough times, but it's also been my biggest enemy, and it led to me having an unhealthy relationship with food.
Especially during this time of year when the holidays are coming up, and so those sorts of family gatherings will be taking place for a lot of people around Thanksgiving and then Christmas and the New Year celebration coming up all right around the corner. So it's definitely an important time to keep these sorts of concepts in people's minds and just to go into those celebrations knowing that you can still enjoy them and have a good time and celebrate the occasions, but just to be a little bit more mindful of coming out the other side still feeling good.
Exactly. Yeah, knowing that you can still enjoy Christmas dinner with your family, knowing that you can still enjoy Thanksgiving, but just a little bit, there's no need to overdo it, just a little bit.
Absolutely. So you talked a little bit about the major turning point when you had that experience in the hospital after your surgery. When you're looking back at the journey, are there any other sort of aha moments or epiphanies that really changed the course of the way you were living your life or looking at life?
Oh yeah, two always come to my mind, and that's because number one, I work in the restaurant business. I'm in a surrounding where there's food all the time. And the first epiphany really came when I walked up to one of my restaurants, and I was walking in the front door, and there's glass doors, and you can see your reflection in the glass. And the first time I really saw what I looked like was in that reflection on the glass, and I couldn't believe that was me that I was looking at. And the second epiphany that I really had was, I work in the restaurant business, and we had a pretty wealthy investor who invested in our company. And I invited he and his wife to have breakfast with me one morning, and they came to the restaurant. And they actually declined eating. They just wanted to drink something. And then because I'm a very hospitable guy, I walked over about 15 minutes later, and I said, hey, are you sure I can't get you something for breakfast? And he declined with some not so nice words, telling me how he didn't want to look like me someday. And so, there's been epiphanies for me throughout, and sometimes not so nice, and sometimes a little bit hurtful. But I guess I have to look back and think, gosh, where I am today, I'm exactly half the man I used to be, and that's not in a bad way. I'm 170 pounds, 160 pounds, and so I'm half the man I used to be. And so I guess I can look back, and even the not so nice stuff, I should give a thank you for that, because it's at least gotten me to a place now where I'm a healthy and happy and fit human being versus overweight on the verge of being very sick.
Definitely a pretty harsh comment to hear from someone, but amazing that you're able to flip that around and still be thankful for it. And I've never heard
That's
that
right.
half the man I used to be used in that way either. That's a great way of looking at life too.
Yeah, it stung, Scott. I won't lie. It stung to hear that, but I got past it, and here I am today.
So when you're looking at yourself now and you see yourself in the mirror, I'm sure that there's a much more positive reflection that shines back. How do you stay that course and continue to move in that direction that you want to be in? And have there been any slips through the past 7 years? Is it a constant thing that you have to think about, or does it become natural after a certain amount of time and you just sort of get in that steady groove?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, today, the person that I look at in the mirror, the transformation has happened physically, obviously. I do weigh exactly half of what I used to weigh before. So it's very visible, right? If I see people that I haven't seen in many years, it's almost like, wow, you get I can't believe it's you. You look great. And the struggle is real. I will live with that struggle forever. There are times that I wake up in the morning and I get out of bed and I'm moving as if I was a heavy person, because sometimes mentally my brain still thinks I'm a heavy person. And have I slipped? Absolutely. I slip constantly. I mean, there's days that I drink too much coffee and I put too much sugar in it and I put too much cream. But guess what? Tomorrow's another day and I can start all over again. There's times that I've overeaten and then I don't feel very good and I end up having to go to the bathroom. But guess what? Tomorrow's another day and I can start all over again. I just don't ever view anything anymore as a negative. I view everything now as a blessing, and I view it all as, I have a second opportunity to really make up for some of the time that I lost. And do I look at myself in the mirror today and love myself way more than I did? Absolutely. I can look at myself now and know that I'm the person that God intended me to be. But it's a struggle, and it will be a struggle every single day, because in my mind, I know that if I overeat, I can gain that weight back. My bariatric surgery was a tool. It was a great tool, and it's a tool that I have to use every single day to help me keep my weight down. But it doesn't come with a risk that I can overeat and gain weight back.
I think that's something that anyone listening to this right now can identify with. We're all human beings, and we all, whatever path we're on in life, have our slip-ups and our falls here and there, but having that attitude of getting right back on the horse, tomorrow's a new day, is the perfect way of looking at it, and just continuing to be thankful for the blessing of life itself. It's like you were saying earlier, the sun and the stars and the ocean and everything. It's a beautiful world, and it's a beautiful life to have this opportunity, whatever it is that we're doing here in this world. And one of the things I wanted to ask you as well is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say we have to make the best of it. I mean, it's we get one life, we get one body. I would tell you this too. I mean, we don't look at food habits. I mean, they can be just as bad as drug habits. Yet, we don't pay enough attention to it. But food habits can get just as bad, if not worse, than cocaine or any other kind of drug.
Absolutely, especially the refined sugar, they say, is and I can attest from my own personal struggles with that. It's just as hard as the hard drugs. I mean, it is a drug.
It is.
It's just so prevalent and available that we don't even think of it as such in a lot of ways.
Exactly.
So what was it that initially got you to go toward the restaurant business to begin with?
I love food. I'm the self-proclaimed foodie, and I just love food. And I love being hospitable. I love serving people, and I love feeding people. It's always been my DNA to want to feed people. I just now feed them healthy versus unhealthy. But, ever since I was like 15 years old, I had a job. And I have an uncle who was a general manager of a newspaper. And I just thought, gosh, I want to be like a manager of a company. And I don't know what kind of company, but maybe I'll do a food company, or maybe I'll do a hotel company. And I ended up in food because every single day I have the opportunity to impact people's lives. And more than that, it's most positive. And so the food business for me has always been a natural place for me. It's, we all need to eat. And guess what? God gave us a hunger pain, because you're going to have to eat again every 4 hours. And so for me, the food business has just been, it's been a comfort for me, and it's been a place that I have found that I just love it. I wake up every morning and I'm ready to be in the business, and I have not once woken up regretting that I'm in the food business.
Having that entrepreneurial spirit and wanting to be in management and business in general, what are some of the keys that you can talk about in that facet of life for people that want to be more disciplined and have that ability to be in a business situation that way?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question, and I will tell everybody that the food business is not for everyone. However, I will say everyone should have to work in the food business to learn what it is like to have to serve other people. I mean, there's what better place can you be that you have to serve others, right? And God didn't put us on this earth to be served. He put us on this earth to serve. And so I think everyone, no matter what profession you end up in, I think everybody should have to be in the restaurant business. Now that's just a personal, that's just a personal feeling that I have. But I would tell anybody who wants to go into the food business, get ready, because it's not an easy business. It's a tough business out there, and it's tough because when people are hungry, they're not always happy. And so if you don't have the heart to serve, then it's probably not the business for you. But I would tell people that want to get into management or management in the food business, have a passion for serving others. And then if you do, get into a restaurant group, go and work in even a fast food place. And I know I don't recommend people eating fast food, but those companies, they are very structured and disciplined, and they're big and powerful for a reason, and it's because they do a good job with training, and they do a good job with teaching people the management business on the restaurant side.
I had some friends in the past who were sous chefs or worked the line, and that was some of the same advice they gave, was everyone should have to do this to see how rough it really is going through this process. And I think that would also give more appreciation for when you go out to eat, say, to know that everyone back there is working their butts off to bring you that food that you're going to be enjoying. It just gives a little more mindfulness. So I have a lot of authors and poets on this program. We talk shop about the writing process. So you had said that before you had that experience, you had not even thought about writing a book. So when you decided that was something you wanted to do, what sort of game plan did you lay out for yourself, and what was the process of writing that book like?
Yeah, unfortunately for me, I mean, every decision that I make in my life, I really do pray on it, and I really do kind of take some time to think about what I want to do and strategize how I want to do it. And I've been very fortunate. God has just put some amazing people in my life. I had and still to this day is a good friend of mine. His name is Mike Yorkie, but he edited, I want to say it's The Maker's Diet, a pretty big book, a New York Times bestseller. And so I just started writing. I would sit at my computer every day and I would just write. And probably over the course of a year and a half, I had a lot of content. And then I really didn't know what to do with it. And so I called Mike Yorkie is his name, and I said, hey, what do I do with this? Where do I go from here? And so he did the editing of my book, which was an amazing help. And then I went to CreateSpace from there, which is on Amazon. And obviously started the process through Amazon. CreateSpace was, it was a good process, not too hard. But I didn't get a whole lot of the creative juices couldn't really flow the way I really wanted them to. And so I went to Morgan James Publishing and I met with them. And luckily for me, they are an awesome publisher to work with. And so they accepted my book, and here I went to do that. But I had a lot of help along the way. I have a sister-in-law named Janice who's very talented in graphics, and she helped out quite a bit. My brother's kind of a really good mind on the business side. He's got a very level head, so I had some help from him, just kind of putting my business plan together. So at every step, Scott, there was some help, and I won't lie. I mean, there was a lot of head bumps that I had to take along the way. But really, if you just sit down and start writing, and you have enough content, send it to a publisher and see what they have to say. Sometimes they reject it. I got a few of those. But luckily for me, Morgan James Publishing has been an amazing publisher for me, and we align so well that it's been a very good partnership.
That's great to hear. I want to take just a moment and say thank you to Martha Boone, who was a past guest on this program, also with Morgan James Publishing, and she had put me in contact with the PR department there, and then they had sent me the information. That's how I got in contact with you and found out about your book. So shout out to Morgan James Publishing there. It's always great to work with people who have the same vision and want to help you get that message out into the world. So
that's right. That's right. They've been amazing.
So what are some of your favorite foods to prepare when you've got the chef hat on?
That's a great question. I get asked that quite a bit, and it does change. There are times that I just really enjoy making beautiful salads with some really nice vinaigrettes. I like to make vinaigrettes from scratch, very, very simple vinaigrettes like lemon juice with oil and a little bit of vinegar. Or I like to make like a blueberry vinaigrette, and I like to take fruits and vegetables and actually turn those into like a salad dressing versus anything bought from the store. But I love to do seafood. I really like to make Chilean sea bass with some mushrooms on top. And lately I've kind of been in the mood for fish. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but I just love fish and chicken. I have stayed away from beef quite a bit. I really haven't done a whole lot of beef in the last 7 years, but I can do it, and I can do it well.
Oh, all that sounds delicious. Absolutely. I think that's a key point you talk about when putting together your own healthy, natural salad dressings is such an important aspect for people to understand, because if you just buy that stuff off the store shelf, it's got all those hydrogenated oils in it and all kinds of other stuff, and it makes such a difference to your health when you can, like you said, the lemon, get some apple cider vinegar in there and just sort of go to town with whatever you like. And the dressing itself can almost become a meal and taste just as good as the salad when you dump it over it, when you really get that technique down.
That's right.
So it's just
the other thing that I've been doing lately is I've really been going to my local stores. Whole Foods has been amazing because I had a partnership with them, and it's kind of fallen off a little bit, but Whole Foods has been great. And just going into the grocery store and shopping the perimeter of the store and trying new things, finding fruits and vegetables that look odd that, you don't typically use in the kitchen on a daily basis, and figuring out how to make something great out of it. And really just appreciating the flavors of fruits and vegetables. It's just been fun for me. It's been a really fun journey for me to really play with food, because, fruits and veggies are underrated. We should eat more of them.
Oh, 100% agree with that. And shopping the perimeter of the grocery store is definitely a key tip. stay in that produce section, and well, you're in the Mecca there in LA with all the farmers markets. You must just have, like manna from heaven around you all the time to choose from.
Exactly. Go to the farmers market at the Grove in Beverly Hills, and it's a pretty magical place.
Which brings me to wonder what initially led you there to LA from after growing up in New Mexico.
Yeah, I had I worked for a guy in Albuquerque who's he's become a mentor to me. I started working in the fast food business when I was very young, and worked for a franchisee at McDonald's restaurants, and he ended up buying a franchise of some bakery cafes down in Southern California and bringing me with him. And so about 17 years ago, I decided to leave New Mexico and come to Southern California and enjoy the sun and get out of the snow in the winter. And it's been just a remarkable journey for me. I just really enjoy being in Southern California, and it really is my home. In fact, this is where I met my future wife, which is great.
Congratulations on that. I must say I checked your Instagram page just a few hours ago and saw that the most recent post said that you were engaged. So congratulations on that.
Very exciting times. 5 years ago, definitely did not think that was going to happen. So it's been a huge blessing.
Well, it's awesome when you move along the track that you want to in life and things start manifesting like that. It's great to see that for anyone in the world, especially when they're trying to put a positive message out to see good things happen.
Exactly. It is. It really is.
So here at the end of the show, is there any final advice you'd like to give the listeners, or also please talk about where they can find your book and any other information on the websites that you have?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that I would say. Number one, we all have body image issues, everybody. And Scott, I live in Los Angeles, where it is the mecca of, not only is it the mecca of good food, but it's also the mecca of people who are just beautiful people, And so if we all look at them and we think, gosh, I wish I had their life, trust me, more than not, you probably would want to just keep your own life. But self-image issues plague every single person. And I don't care how perfect you are. I don't care how good you look. I don't care how skinny you are. I don't care how beautiful you are. Everyone who is still gorgeous, they all have body image issues. So my advice is really, start loving yourself. Whoever is out there that doesn't feel good about themselves, start feeling good about yourself. It really begins with you. And I just tell people, look, go to my website. It's portionyourplate.com. Go to, you can go to jacobbustos.com, which will lead you to the same place. But I would highly recommend people get my book and read it, because it's I think it's more, besides the recipes and besides, the kitchen basics, it's a good story with, what God did in my life, and really how you can transform yourself just by thinking better about yourself, and by really putting yourself in a better position mentally to love yourself again. So that website again is portionyourplate.com or jacobbustos.com. My book is also available at Barnes & Noble, so if you go to barnesandnoble.com, you can pick that up there, and it's When Food is Your Frenemy. And there's also an ebook version, so if you're not the kind that wants to walk around with a book, and you just like to have it on your Kindle or your Nook, you can easily download that and take it with you, and it's like $9.99, so it's less expensive than the regular book.
Great message there. Love yourself, and then you'll be able to spread it outward the same way that you're doing with this inspirational story. Really appreciate you joining the program tonight and telling us about it, and to encourage everyone to go check out your website and get the book, When Food is Your Frenemy. So thanks so much, Jacob. Hope you have a great holiday season coming up, and
thank you.
Congratulations on the engagement.
Thank you very much, Scott. I really appreciate it. God bless you.
God bless you too.
Bye-bye.
So that was Jacob F. Bustos. Everyone should go check out his website, portionyourplate.com. And thank you for listening in to Songs of Selah tonight. Going to be another episode tomorrow, Tuesday, October 15th. That will be at 9 p.m. Eastern as well. Going to have another author from Morgan James Publishing, in fact. Danny Williamson will be joining the program to talk about his book, Where's the Joy? So please do tune in again tomorrow night. And going to go to another track by Vlada Mars to finish out the program here tonight. This one is Silver Threads. Take care, everyone.